Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in, joined by Austin Brubaker, set to talk about Game 2 of the NLDS. As much as we don't want to, hey, we have to here. And boy, Austin, it was a disappointing night. It was a night that I did not see coming. I thought the Dodgers would bounce back. I thought Bobby Miller would dominate for the most part, and I thought it would be a good night inside Dodger Stadium. It just was not.
No, it was not. No, and that's definitely unfortunate. The Dodgers are now down 2-0 in a best-of-5 series against a team that, going into the series, I think we all kind of expected them to be able to handle because of the season history. And it's just been a really disappointing past couple of games. So last night definitely was disappointing. Went down early, which is the exact opposite of what we were looking for. We were looking for them to be the ones to strike first, but that did not happen.
You hit on it, but we mentioned it in our pregame show last night. You know, hey, with layoff and just all the pressure that's on this team, you're the heavy favorite. You lost to the Padres last year. This team really needed to get off to a good start, get off to a lead. Obviously, that didn't happen. You get down 3-0. So what were your thoughts on Bobby Miller and his performance?
Yeah, no, I think going into last night, because of what we've seen from Bobby Miller in the past and because of his electric stuff, we expected him to be able to dominate, to show up to this game, because we've seen him show up for a lot of these big-time moments. Last night was disappointing. He just flat out couldn't locate a lot of his pitches. And Arizona has been a very disciplined team in this series, and they've been able to take advantage of mistakes. The first couple hits weren't ones that were necessarily crazy. Drew a walk, which is something that Bobby Miller should be able to control. Got the bunt base hit, which is smart by them because they're trying to find unique ways to put pressure on the Dodgers. And then they were able to get a couple of base hits to fall. And because of that, Bobby Miller just wasn't the pitcher that we have seen all season, wasn't the pitcher that we've seen throughout his career. And it's just really disappointing to see that from him. But I think it was smart by Dave Roberts to recognize that early and then go to the bullpen, which you got to give credit for the bullpen because they kept the Dodgers in this game. They gave them a chance to win the game last night.
And I thought Dave pulled all the right moves. I think you can question, pinch hitting Koltenwong for Miguel Rojas. I think you could probably maybe question that. But the only thing I would say to that, my response to that would be, hey, somebody in this organization felt like Koltenwong deserved a spot on this roster, on this playoff roster, over Ahmed Rosario. So if you're ever going to use Koltenwong, that would be the situation last night, in a matchup that suits him. So why even have him on the roster if you're not going to use him in that situation? I'm going to say it point blank. I did not see that coming with Bobby Miller. I think if you watched the pregame last night, I was super excited to watch him compete in those huge moments. He's always come through in those moments. Not to say that he wouldn't have rebounded and had a good game, but the Dodgers needed a quick start last night. So the Bobby Miller thing and not getting through the first inning without giving up the 3 runs, that surprised me. And that's a situation to where I'm sure it surprised him too. I'm sure it'll be, teaching points for him, good motivation for him, but it's left the Dodgers in a hole that is going to be very difficult to dig out. Just trying to be real here, not trying to be negative, not trying to run your day here or anything, but just trying to be real with what happened. So other than maybe questioning hitting Wong for Miguel Rojas, I really felt like Dave Roberts pushed every button properly. He took out Bobby Miller at the right time. He mapped out the pitching perfectly, and then the Kikehernandez pinch hit, and Christaylor came up and got a walk. I thought he pushed every button that he could have last night.
Yeah, I think he did everything proper that was under his control managing in game yesterday. I think the moves in the bullpen were exactly what he needed to. I love the enthusiasm that Brusdar Graterol brought. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what we were looking for Bobby Miller to show during that game. He wasn't able to showcase that because he wasn't effective at all last night. But just the energy that he brought, I thought was good. Yeah, I think he made the correct moves and pinch hitting Koltenwong. I think he, for that matchup, probably would have been the best option going into that point. So I think he made the right moves. The offense just has not clicked after this 5 days off. It has not clicked during the series, and that's the reason why they lost yesterday. They had the poor start, and then the offense just was not able to respond.
Yep, no doubt about that. You talk about the offense. Hey, I think it's pretty obvious this offense has been built around Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman being the consistent guys that get base hits every game, and then Will Smith whenever he's hot, and then hitting home runs beyond that. And whenever you're not hitting home runs from people that aren't named Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and then Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts aren't getting hits, they're combined. Well, Betts is 1 for 7, Freeman is 1 for 6, so that is 2 for 13. No RBIs, no home runs, no extra base hits. So when those two guys aren't getting hits, and then nobody else is hitting home runs, that's pretty much what this offense has been.
Yeah, no, it's really disappointing. And for the top 3 hitters yesterday, they went 1 for 12, and that one hit was the Freddie Freeman hustle, when it really was kind of on Zacgallen for not hustling over there and making sure that they got the out. The top part of the lineup, if there's any hope for the Dodgers, which technically they are not eliminated in this series. Good news.
They've won 3 in a row several times this year, yeah.
Yes, but the top part of the lineup has to step up, and they have to provide that offensive punch that they've shown all year. This lineup runs when the top part of the lineup is running well, and then the guys in the bottom part of the lineup can help supplement that. There was nobody on base when JD hit his home run. And so I think having those guys be able to hit, be able to be smart, and just realize that hey, you're still really good hitters. Be smart. Don't try to hit a home run necessarily every single time. Just be smart in getting people on base. Start providing some sort of momentum for this offense. They just have not been able to do that these past couple of games. And what's really disappointing, or what's really intimidating, is the exact same 2 pitchers that you had to face. You're likely going to have to face again for Arizona, and Merritt Kelly and Zacgallen.
You could look at that 2 different ways. Hey, the odds were that Merrill Kelly, Zacgallen, past history would tell you that that's going to be a good matchup for the Dodgers, especially with the Clayton Kershaw matchup against Arizona. So if you would just look at it as, hey, if the odds come through and they play through, of course we've talked about the analytics and odds in postseason versus just playing what's in front of you right now. Odds don't always work out in the postseason in short bursts, but you can look at it like, hey, odds are that the next time out, it won't be as successful for them as it was the first time, because maybe the first time was an anomaly. If you're trying to be super positive about this, backing up to the Bobby Miller start, though, hey, when I went on with DMAC and Dodgers Nation, one of the questions he asked about him was about postseason was, hey, what type of, what do you see for him whenever it comes to the postseason? One thing I did mention, very emotional. And, hey, sometimes that's good because you ride that high emotional wave. Sometimes that's bad because you get frustrated when things aren't going your way. I just really thought that he would come out and strike out a couple of guys. He would ride that really good emotional wave. And then by the time he got to a wave that might have dipped a little bit, I thought Dave and Mark might have been able, to find a spot to get him out before that bottom emotional wave came. But instead, the bottom emotional wave came right off the bat. And again, that just totally surprises me.
Yeah, no, and I think that's been the biggest thing, is it's come immediately, that kind of low. And so I think the offense, they've been trying to play catch up a whole lot,
which is tough,
which is extremely tough. And so you can look at it as far as you need your pitching staff to be able to put up a 0 in the next game, in the following games, if you want to get back into this series, because going down early has been something that has been really disappointing, really hard to overcome, especially against some of the tough pitchers that Arizona has. So if the pitchers, and that's a big if the starters are able to put up 0s in game 3, in game 4, and potentially game 5, if it comes to that, I think that's when the Dodgers offense would have an opportunity to potentially click to get back in this series.
Had plenty of chances. Jamesoutman, he had a chance. He needs to figure out a way somehow to not, he's swinging under the ball again. Whenever he struggles, anything, elevated in the zone, he swings underneath it. He's a little bit behind the ball as far as, staying back a little bit too much on the backside of his weight, which elevates his swing a little bit too much, and the ball goes over his barrel. Just my opinion, but boy, he had a chance. It right there was a 2-run game, 1 out. You had momentum, and he had a 3-0 count. Got to figure out a way just put the ball in play somehow and score a run there, bring it back within 1, advance everybody, put the go-ahead run in scoring position, just continue to put some pressure on the Arizona defense and the pitching. Wasn't able to do it. Jamesoutman has struggled so far in the postseason. I think if you follow Dodgers daily much, I think that comes as a surprise to me. But hey, again, the postseason is full of surprises.
Yeah, the postseason definitely is full of surprises. Unfortunately, this time it's not good surprises that we've been dealing with for this postseason. It's been really disappointing. Jamesoutman, we know about the catch during Game 1. That was a really difficult play if you look at expected batting average. Kind of led things to go off the rails, and then offensive performance just hasn't been there this series. It's been disappointing.
Yeah, and the rookies have looked like rookies, to be honest with you, and that's kind of what you expect. Having said that, that's why you have veterans. That's why you go give mookiebetts a 10-year deal. That's why you go get a Freddie-Freeman. That's why willsmith is your catcher. That's why, of course, jd martinez has been good. But, hey, that's why you have a Max Muncy, and that's why you're considering re-signing him for $16 million. Your rookies need to be the auxiliary players, not the guys that you're relying on to actually win the game in these situations, although rookies for other teams have come through.
Yeah, no, rookies for other teams have come through, and I think it might be easy to point the blame on a lot of these rookies, but the reality is the star performers have not shown up at all.
It's been a team effort.
It's been an entire team worth of disappointment. You can point to the bullpen during this past game and feel good about what they were able to do. But just about every other aspect, it's been a really disappointing series, a really disappointing team display, which is not what we saw throughout the course of the regular season. So they're going to have to make some massive adjustments before they head to Arizona starting tomorrow.
So you talk about heading to Arizona tomorrow. Where does the team go from here? Is there any chance, am I being a little bit too overly positive here? The team, in my opinion, has played tight. They've come out, I don't want to say nervous, but just uptight. Just can't relax the muscles and to allow the muscles to perform to their capabilities. Any chance that getting on the road might relax this club?
Potentially. Obviously, that's really tough to stay in the position that they are at now, being down 2-0 and feeling like all the momentum is on Arizona. But you could reverse the actual fortunes and be the team that has nothing to lose. Arizona has been that team that has had nothing to lose. They have been wanting to do all of the little things to try to put pressure on the Dodgers. And so far, the Dodgers have taken that punch to the face and they've collapsed so far. But they're not out of it yet. And so with that, you could play hey, we have nothing to lose. Let's just go out and give it everything that we've got. That could be a potential mindset that you could have. I think it's right now, the odds are definitely not in their favor. Yeah. But if you're the Dodgers team, you can't be thinking about that. You just got to be thinking about, let's win Game 3. Let's see what happens. Let's play our best baseball that we possibly can. And just see what happens from there. So they're not out of this series yet. Provide a little bit of a positive spin. Last night was definitely a tough one to take. Mm-hmm.
And moving to Arizona, obviously the elevation favors teams that can hit home runs. And hey, the Dodgers are a team that relies on hitting home runs as a big, huge part of their offense. So I think in some ways maybe the Arizona elements, the environment, as far as, it being a conducive atmosphere for hitting home runs, I think that could also help the Dodgers too, because it just has felt like, hey, just somebody needs to step up with runners on base in a big situation and just run into one and hit a home run, give the Dodgers that crooked number on the scoreboard. And you just feel like if that comes, that would relax everybody. It would get everybody back in to to the type of game that we're used to seeing everybody play, and it just hasn't happened yet. But hey, more likely in an Arizona environment. Am I stretching here? I'm trying, all right?
Yeah, no, at least that's going to the changing the environment changes something. And right now something needs to change. And so I think moving to Arizona, providing a little bit of a different backdrop, providing a little bit of a different mindset, I mean, it can't really hurt at this point. So, no, I think moving to that and being able to hit some of those big home runs, having some of those balls fly a little bit more, hopefully not hitting into some double plays when you do get runners into scoring position, I think would be helpful and would potentially give the Dodgers a shot in Game 3. Right now, the biggest thing is you just have to win tomorrow's game.
Yeah, boy, and Arizona has a great formula. They play great defense. Their pitchers are throwing strikes for the most part, and then their offense is very disciplined and, forcing the Dodgers pitchers to throw strikes, which they haven't always done. Then they're getting timely hits, and I thought last night the home run from Gurriel, the Dodgers had scored one, and hey, you get the momentum, and when you get a little bit of momentum like that, it's super, super important to go back out that next half inning and string a zero. It just kind of it concretes that momentum, if you will. So if you're the other team and you have the lead and the other team has scored on you, it's super important that you go out and score at least just one run. And the Dodgers got the first two quick outs. Then the home run came. I really felt like that home run right there, of course, and then the inning where you had the bases loaded, one out. But I felt like that answer home run by Gurriel, I felt like that was a dagger.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a big blow because Dodgers a bullpen had been rolling, and they got an answer from JD Martinez, and just having that one to kind of take away the home run that the Dodgers had on the board, that was a tough one to deal with, but still one that the Dodgers should have been able to find some sort of way with the opportunities that they gave themselves with the offense, found some sort of way to try to get back in that game. But with that, definitely, I mean, you got to give props to Lourdes Gurriel. He did exactly what you're supposed to do when a team starts to build momentum, when a team starts to get back into that game, and was able to put a run across for Arizona.
I felt like he had a good pitch, too. It was just a good piece of hitting, almost like it's just everything that the Diamondbacks are doing are turning to gold. Okay, so Game 3, we've been predicting this, with that Kershaw would get the ball Game 1, Lance Lynn would get the ball Game 3. The Dodgers are squarely relying on their veterans as much as they can. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think this was probably going to be the plan going into this series, almost no matter what, just because of their tendency to rely on some of the veterans. No, I think they're gonna treat it exactly like they treated it Game 2, where they're gonna keep Lance Lynn probably on a very short leash, depending on what's going on, and Lance Lynn's going to have to execute. And we're putting a lot of the hopes of the season, the Dodgers putting a lot of their hopes on the season, on a guy who has been a little bit inconsistent, but has at times shown the ability to keep the Dodgers in the games, to provide some sort of length and be able to get some hitters out. The Dodgers are going to need Lance Lynn to be effective on Wednesday to at least a certain degree in order to keep them in the series. I think they were going to have to rely on him at some point in the series. And if you want Kershaw, if you want Miller to start again, Game 3 was the really only main option that you could use him. So he's going to at least start. He's going to face at least 3 batters. We'll see what the Dodgers' plan from there is.
This is spilt milk, but just from a matchup perspective, this is the type of game that I would like to see Ryan Yarbrough for a couple reasons. Well, actually, more than a couple reasons. One is he keeps the ball in the strike zone. He's not going to give Arizona any freebies, which we know with their athletic ability, just the way they like to create havoc. That is huge. I worry about Lance Lynn walking some guys early in the game. For the most part, Ryan Yarbrough has kept the ball in the ballpark, and then obviously he's left-handed, which means he can control the running game. So I think this would have been a situation to where Ryan Yarbrough would have been a great matchup against the Diamondbacks. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're necessarily wrong, though. That's not going to be what the game plan is during this series, though. So
yeah, he's not even on the roster.
Yeah,
so.
no, he's not even off the roster.
Just kind of wanted to chew on your thoughts as far as what kind of matchup you think Yarbrough would have been for the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I think the throwing strikes, I think, would have been a positive. This Arizona Diamondbacks team is not a team that strikes out a whole lot, which I think as for the Dodgers, which is a team that I think relies some on the strikeouts. They like getting a lot of those swings and misses, especially when they aren't able to necessarily always control. Diamondbacks have been a disciplined team. They haven't chased a lot in this series, which has provided them with opportunities to provide offense, which they've taken full advantage of in that. With Ryan Yarbrough, he would have been likely somebody who wouldn't have given up a ton of walks, would have kept it in the strike zone. There still would have been opportunities for the Diamondbacks to be able to swing. I don't think they would have done necessarily tons of swing and misses, and so then you're kind of relying on some of the batted ball data, which can be inconsistent.
And it's out of your control.
Yes, it very much is out of your control, which is, I think, why they wanted to rely a little bit more on the strikeouts, because that is an automatic out, and you can't always predict how the batted balls are going to fall. This series so far, they've fallen for Arizona. We'll have to see if that changes over the course of Game 3. If it doesn't, then that's going to be it.
That's a very good point about the batted ball data and it not being in your control. The Dodgers like to have control over all the situations that they put themselves in. So that's exactly, I think you nailed the reason why Ryan Yarbrough is not on this roster and all these other guys are, is that they wanted their pitching, at the very least, with all of the unknowns that you go into it, at least know that, hey, my guy, if Bobby Miller makes the right pitch, he can get swing and miss, whereas Ryan Yarbrough, even if he makes a great pitch, it's probably going to get put in play, and once it gets put in play, you can't control where the ball goes. So that's a great point right there. So, okay, man, are you optimistic here? Are you pessimistic? Of course, the pessimism is pretty obvious because you're down 2-0, but give me some reasons to be optimistic.
Yeah, and obviously right now it is kind of easy to be pessimistic because you're staring down the face of elimination. But with that, the staring down the face of elimination means that you're still in it. The elimination is not reality yet. You have a little bit of a change of scenery going in. Right now, Arizona is still playing loose. We don't know how they're going to respond being up 2-0. I know their fans are going to be excited. They're going to want to be dancing, celebrating in the pool that they have in the outfield. But with that, opportunity is still there for the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers still have an offense. I don't think that they've clicked yet. They still have superstars at the top of their lineup. I think they have an opportunity, and I think they have veteran leadership to where they're not going to just go out and just die, and they're not going to go out and just give up on this series. I still think that they're going to fight in this series, and I think Dave Roberts has shown, at least in the game yesterday, that he can manage, he can push the right buttons to where if that offense is able to provide them with some sort of lead, if the starting pitching is able to give more than just an inning or two, I think they have an opportunity to take Game 3. And if you take Game 3, some of the pressure starts getting pushed back on Arizona. And if you start, especially if you're able to build a little bit of momentum, start to get a lead in Game 4, then the dominoes can start falling to where Arizona can feel all this pressure. And with them being a young team, I don't know how they respond to that. So that's where your hope kind of is. Your offense needs to step up, provide some sort of momentum and leadership. They have shown the ability to do that all series. And then we'll see how Arizona, a very young team, is able to respond to that.
I remember when the Braves did this to the Pirates in the 90s. I'm sure you don't remember this. I'm kind of dating myself here. I remember it very well because Atlanta was on the Superstation, and we saw Atlanta. Everybody did, them and the Cubs throughout the country. So we were very familiar with their group. That was the Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, and that group. I believe Steve Avery is on that pitching staff as well. And they just simply blanked the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't think in the next 3 games they even scored a run. Okay, but this is a little bit different for the Dodgers. I think it's going to be opposite. I think if the Dodgers are going to win the next 3 games, it's going to be because the offense gets hot. You start hitting home runs. In the desert, you start feeling good about yourself. And whenever you're coming back from a big deficit like this, like in football, let's say you're down 3 or 4 scores, one of your scores needs to be like an easy score, like you hit a long bomb or a runner takes off and goes on a really long run. It can't be that every one of your scores is like a 13-play drive. That's very difficult. So in one of these games at least, the Dodgers need to have a game to where they win fairly easily, if that makes sense to you, and be a game to where it's not as much stress. So hopefully, the offense can get hot in these games and carry this offense. But hey, Coach Holt hit on it last Friday. I asked him his biggest concern. What is your biggest concern going into playoffs? He went straight to the offense. Hey, this has been an offense that from time to time they just forget to hit, which we've kind of seen in this series, and lo and behold, it's actually happened. So if I were to ask you what has been the biggest surprise so far in this series, what would be your answer to that?
I think it has to go to, well, there could be a couple different ones. You can go to the for the starting pitchers Kershaw not being able to, only pitching a third of an inning, Bobby Miller only pitching an inning and 2/3, or you could go to the top of the lineup. Just the lack of offense from Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman in the series.
And Will Smith.
Both of those 2 teams. He had a couple hits game 1, but last night was disappointing for sure. No, I think those things have been the kind of the most disappointing aspects, or at least the most unexpected aspects and reasons why the Dodgers are down 2-0.
All right, man. Well, hey, we're going to have another pregame show on Wednesday evening before the game. We had a fun show last night. That was super fun getting to talk to Dodgers fans, getting ready for Game 2. Obviously, the game didn't go like we wanted to, but look forward to seeing everybody for Dodgers Dogs on Wednesday night. We're going to go on about an hour and a half before game time, so, hey, make sure and check in for that. So, any final thoughts, Austin?
Yeah, it's obviously last night was disappointing, but don't let the Dodgers get back in this series. And so, because if you win Game 3, they might have some momentum. So if you're the Diamondbacks, don't let the Dodgers get back. If you're the Dodgers, just win tomorrow.
All right, Austin, appreciate you joining.
Appreciate it, Casey.